Will Yoda stay cracked for the re-release of the classic Star Wars Battlefront 2? This is a speculation video that will also double as a guide, especially if things don't really change too drastically when the game re-releases. When on certain maps and a mode that has infantry, Yoda goes from being a lowish mid-tier to an S-tier via these circumstantial maps like Kashyyyk a tad bit, but especially Dagobah. Blaster bolts cannot enter the water, only bombs and sabers can work within it. Crouching as infantry when within the water can be a pretty great tech to make yourself a little less shootable, but with Yoda, he sort of becomes invincible inside of it. With the exception of bombs and Darth Vader, Yoda can dash around the water striking people, while barely being seen, similar to bushes but without the invincibility. There's even more cracked potential though, when you take his force moves into account. Yoda has a force pull and a force push. I would neglect using the force push for the most part, as you'll rarely need it unless you're pushing Vader away from you, or if you want to knock down multiple infantry at once. Force pull on the other hand is insane when you take his ninja water tactic into account, especially in combination with the range of it being triple the range of the force push. Enemies that are being played by real players are probably going to be more cautious when around bushes or water, but now you get to yeet them towards your little death pool via his force pull. Although I've noticed the original Battlefront has broken force move consistency, as the hitboxes of the light side force moves are far less generous when playing in the Republic era. Hopefully the remake fixes this along with other issues, but if they don't, just note that I've noticed better luck tends to happen when you put your aim indicator a little below them. But anyway, there's tactics to optimize Yoda even further while compensating for Yoda's weaknesses. Yoda's regular 3-hit combo sorta sucks despite the animations looking cool, due to how slow moving he is during his strikes in combination with those strikes themselves being fairly slow. When force pulling people, it will be more optimal to do a faster, more damaging back melee instead. A more advanced but risky tactic will be to jump towards the enemy you pulled and then hit them in mid-air, instead of burning a little more time by waiting for them to come into the water. Using his standard attack should be a last resort. Try to use dash strikes as it kills faster and is more likely to allow you to hit multiple enemies at once, while maintaining a speed that will make you less likely to be shot at or kept track of. Unlike characters like Dooku, Maul, and Grievous who have their stamina regain paused in the middle of their dash strikes, Yoda's dash strikes regain stamina in the middle of the dash strikes, which pretty much makes the move infinitely spammable, similar to other characters like Obi-Wan and a few others that also regain stamina during their dash strikes. But what makes Yoda's even more special is that he can decide to extend his attack with a third flip strike, which keeps him mobile and allows him to regain even more stamina in combination with maybe hitting one more enemy. As you saw in my footage though, I usually decide not to use the third attack, as it's more missable than the first two attacks in combination with the rare occurrence of another player being in your range to hit after the first two hits. Luke shares this exact same dash strike, but the individual move is better on Yoda due to his smaller hitbox. Yoda is still fairly solid on his own merits when up against infantry, no matter the map, but he's clearly better in the grass and water, as said before, especially when taking real players into account that don't have the eyes of a bot that would see you through grass even though they really shouldn't. When that game comes out, or if it's already out as of the time you're watching this video, just be a ninja online. People may be able to detect you with the aim indicator and lock-on feature, but they have to suspect that you're there in the first place, and then press X or square to initiate the lock-on. They should be dead by your hands, or too distracted by other players to deal with you as far as infantry goes. When it comes to villains, breaking their line of sight will remove their lock-on after a few seconds. Never stay in one place long enough for them to find you with it. You have a block, but it's probably better to just run when being shot at. Stay hidden when you can, especially with the water being all around one of the main central command posts shown here. You should be spending most of your time here, if you could afford to. Crouching will allow a saber user to turn off their lightsaber. This could be used to help you hide before force pulling an enemy or dash striking them. In terms of more weaknesses to overcome, you have bombs working differently in your safe space, the water. Grenades go off after bouncing a few times, but in the water, they bounce less, which therefore causes them to go off even sooner. When in water, be ready to move away from the grenades faster than you usually would via a roll or sprinting. It's the only thing that could hit you in the water is Yoda, besides Darth Vader. There are some other exceptions to take note of though, such as weapons from the bonus classes like the lightning blast of a Dark Trooper's Arc Caster, the Officer's Sonic Blaster, which isn't that good of a weapon anyway, and the Magna Guard's rockets, the Engineer's jetpack, and the self-destruct of a recon droid. Laser beams will also work, whether it be a vehicle or the Sniper Award beam, along with Boba Fett's flamethrower oddly enough, so don't stay too close to him. And of course rockets from a heavy will still hit you, as those are still explosive weapons.
Watch those wrist rockets!
But regular shots like snipers, shotguns, and the typical rifle and pistols don't work. The only regular blaster bolt that can work is a blaster that's submerged underwater, which isn't possible for infantry to put their blasters under, with the exception of a droideka that's placed within the water, as it has its blasters lowered enough to be under the same water that Yoda is in. But if the droideka's blasters aren't in the water, then the shots won't enter. There's a decent amount of exceptions I listed off, but most of it is niche and avoidable, as heavies and the special classes are basically your only threat. Your stealth should still be a factor in avoiding these attacks. There's also mines to worry about that can be Yoda's kryptonite when it comes to his beloved grass, as the mines can pretty much be impossible to see when they are put down for a certain amount of time when their red glow starts to disappear. The mines can insta-kill anyone, while only being destroyable by explosions, which means Yoda can't get rid of them. I would hope that their damage gets nerfed a little so that they won't insta-kill heroes or can be destroyed by other means like gunshots, saber throws, and even force moves, but we'll see. These mines can be placed in the water as well. Yoda isn't completely helpless to the mines in his main pool though. If you move your camera down, you can see all the content that is underneath the water. Not just the fish, not just the grenades, but the mines and the... Anyway, infantry can do this as well, but Yoda has an easier time seeing it with less camera movement required. Abuse the water as said before. He's an S tier on maps like Dagobah, but B or C tier when without it. But speaking of tiers, he's definitely C to D tier in hero combat against sabers, as his moves are only good for insta-killing infantry instead of heroes with a bigger health pool. He's sort of a trash pick on heroes versus villains for the most part, even when taking water abuse into account, as sabers and saber throws and force moves still hit you underwater, unlike blaster bolts. This blemish doesn't have you helpless in modes with infantry, as you can decide to just kill the infantry and then run as soon as the saber hero like Darth Vader gets near you. You're so small that Vader will probably lose you if you use the grass and water stealth effectively as you run towards teammates. The best strat against Vader is to not fight Vader, especially as Yoda. I swear a heavy has a better shot than Yoda does. I'm not sure if some of these details will change, but the force choke won't stop you from sprinting if you already started sprinting prior, so keep that in mind when trying to run from Vader. Hopefully they fix the infinite force choke glitch and make the force choke blockable like the other force moves, but we'll see. Anyway, the only time you should fight Vader is when he's low enough to die to 1 or 2 strikes or is distracted by many infantry soldiers. If any of these elements are lacking, it would be best that you retreat. Yoda being up against Grievous is a similar story, but not nearly as bad as fighting Vader, since Grievous has no ranged attacks at all, but you probably don't want to clash with him, as his attacks are superior in terms of saber versus saber combat. He's way less likely to catch you than Vader is though, so long as you stay vigilant on where he is. Fear and readiness will also play a factor. If a decent number of infantry are actively looking for you, then you may want to be more cautious on making the move if you want to avoid having 3 grenades thrown at you at once. But yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know. Of course, a bunch of these tactics will go out the window on his weaker maps like Kashyyyk, where his water and bushes are more limited, or other maps that have no bushes or water at all, such as Zatanna 4 and Polis Massa. When on maps without bushes, your only tactic is to just dash strike people. As said before, he's sort of a bottom tier for heroes versus villains, so I'd recommend never taking him there. The only potential he may have is finishing off low health villains and being a harder target for Baba and Django. The new port of Battlefront has Dagobah as a heroes versus villains map, so maybe he'll have more value there with his stealth, but even then, he probably shouldn't be picked. Good for infantry, but dookie against heroes sort of, like the EA version, funny enough. We'll see how this shapes up online. As you know, I'll definitely be getting the hero with my broken heavy gameplay. I played on PC a little, but it never really ran that well there, to be honest. But anyway, that's about it. Check out my other Star Wars videos of various sorts as they cover more than just Battlefront. And check out my Discord server, Patreon, and other forms of media in my link tree. Leave a comment if you have any questions or things to add. But yeah, thanks for watching.
Surrender you must, or die you will.